Somewhere in your phone right now, there's a photo of someone who has died. You probably haven't deleted it. You probably never will. That's strange if you think about it. But the real answer to why you keep it is far stranger than sentimentality. Your brain was not built for a world where people simply vanish. It was built for a world where the dead had to be dealt with, physically, immediately, and deliberately. Long before writing, before agriculture, before cities, your ancestors were already doing something remarkable. They were burying their dead on purpose. This wasn't an accident of nature. Bodies don't arrange themselves. Someone dug, someone decided, someone chose what to place beside the body and what to leave out. That choice is the first evidence we have of a human mind grappling with loss. Go back roughly 100,000 years to a cave called Qafzeh in what is now northern Israel. Inside, archaeologists found a child, deliberately positioned with deer antlers placed near the body, not scattered, placed. That single detail changes everything. It means someone stood over that small body and made a decision about how the world should remember it. Now travel further to Shanidar Cave in Iraq, where the remains of Neanderthals were uncovered in the 20th century. Pollen clusters were found near one skeleton, and for decades this was interpreted as proof of a flower burial, a Neanderthal funeral bouquet. That specific theory has since been challenged. Later researchers, including paleoanthropologist Emma Pomeroy, who has extensively re-examined the Shanidar remains, found evidence that some of the pollen may have entered through natural means, like burrowing animals. But here's the twist. The flowers were never actually the strongest evidence of grief. The positioning of the bodies was. Neanderthals at Shanidar were placed in similar postures in the same cave over generations. Something was being repeated. Something was being remembered. Why does this matter to you? Because grief, real grief, requires something most animals don't have. It requires the ability to imagine a future that no longer includes someone. Elephants have been observed lingering near the bones of dead herd members, touching them gently with their trunks. Chimpanzees have been seen carrying the bodies of dead infants for days. But only humans build monuments. Only humans return to the same spot year after year to speak to someone who cannot hear them. Ask yourself this: why do you talk to a grave? The archaeologist Paul Pettit, who has spent much of his career studying the origins of Paleolithic burial, argues that these earliest deliberate burials mark something profound in cognitive evolution. Not just an emotional reaction to death, but a symbolic one. The moment a body becomes something more than a body. The moment it becomes a person who is gone, rather than simply flesh that has stopped moving. At a site called Sungir in Russia, dated to around 34,000 years ago, archaeologists uncovered two children buried head-to-head, covered in thousands of ivory beads. Each bead would have taken hours to carve. Thousands of hours invested in two small bodies that could give nothing back. That is not survival behavior. That is love, expressed the only way it could be, through labor and material, because words alone were not enough. Here is where it gets stranger. This instinct to mark death, to ritualize it, to refuse to let it pass without ceremony, appears again and again across cultures that had no contact with each other. Separate continents, separate timelines, separate languages, and yet the same core behavior emerges. Bodies are washed, bodies are wrapped, objects are placed nearby, words are spoken over them. This suggests something uncomfortable. Grief rituals may not be cultural inventions at all. They may be something closer to a biological reflex, expressed through whatever symbols a culture happens to have on hand. Modern psychology backs this up in an unexpected way. Grief researcher George Bonanno, whose decades of work on bereavement reshaped how psychologists understand mourning, found that most people are naturally resilient after loss. Grief does not always follow the neat stages once assumed. Instead, for many people, it comes in waves, interspersed with ordinary moments of functioning, laughing, even joy. This pattern echoes something ancient. Early burial sites were rarely somber alone. Some contained ochre, a red pigment associated in many contexts with vitality and blood. Death and life painted into the same ceremony. Why would evolution build this into you at all? Wouldn't it be more efficient to simply move on? The answer lies in what death meant for a small group of early humans trying to survive together. If someone in your band died and their loss was ignored, if there was no ritual, no acknowledgement, no shared processing of the event, the social fabric of the group would fray, trust would erode, cooperation would weaken. Ritual wasn't just about the dead, it was glue for the living. Think about a funeral you've attended. Strip away the religious framework, the specific words, the specific customs. What remains is a group of people standing together, acknowledging that something significant has occurred, and reaffirming, without saying it directly, that they are still a group, that they will go on together. This is why grief rituals so often involve food. Shared meals after a funeral appear across nearly every documented culture on Earth. Sitting Shiva, the Irish wake, Day of the Dead altars piled with a favorite dish. Feeding each other in the presence of death is not a coincidence. It is one of the oldest signals of social bonding your species has, older than language itself, and death has always been the moment that signal gets activated most strongly. Now think again about that photo on your phone, the one of someone who has died. Keeping it is not sentimentality in the way you might dismiss it. It is a direct continuation of 100,000-year-old behavior. Deer antlers beside a child, ivory beads around two small skeletons, a photograph kept unopened for months but never deleted. You are not simply remembering a person when you do this. You are performing an act your ancestors performed in caves by firelight with nothing but their hands and whatever objects they could find nearby. The tools have changed, the impulse has not. There's a reframe hiding inside all of this. We tend to think of grief as something that happens to us, an emotion that arrives uninvited and must be endured. But the deeper history suggests grief is something you do. It is active. It is constructed, deliberately, the way a burial is constructed, bead by bead, choice by choice. It is one of the only things a person can still give to someone who is gone. Consider what that means the next time you find yourself unable to throw something away. A voicemail you've never deleted, a jacket still hanging in a closet, a chair left exactly where someone always sat. These are not signs of an inability to move on. They are modern versions of the antlers at Qafzeh, the beads at Sungir, the repeated posture of bodies at Shanidar. You are doing what your ancestors did, using the materials of your own century, so when the sun goes down tonight and you scroll past that photo again, you won't just be looking at a memory. You'll be participating in one of the oldest rituals your species has ever practiced. Not out of weakness, not out of an inability to let go, but because somewhere, encoded deep in what makes you human, is the understanding that some absences are too significant to pass by in silence. The dead were never simply left behind. They were carried carefully, deliberately, into whatever came next. And in your own small way, holding on to that photo you'll probably never delete, you are still carrying someone too.